On m'a demandé de parler comment est-ce qu'on peut changer l'histoire, pas seulement du point de vue de la loi. Et pour parler de ce qu'il faudrait changer dans la culture, il faut voir qu'est-ce qui se passe, qu'est-ce qu'on devrait changer. Mais je veux faire ma conférence en anglais. Je peux parler plus rapide en anglais qu'en français. Et après, on peut discuter en français. Je n'ai pas de problème de parler, mais j'ai peur de blesser une langue que j'adore. Alors, en fait, mes enfants m'ont interdit de parler français. Ils ont été élevés au lycée français de Montevideo et ils m'ont interdit. Alors, je dois obéir. Bon. The increasing availability of information about the potential benefits of cannabis and cannabinoid-based medicines treatments to improve quality of life and symptoms of many diseases. I'm not going to talk about cure. We don't know if we cure. So that's where frequent hope traffickers are talking about, that we are curing. We are relieving. That's what we know. And we know that some mechanism could cure. But it's not the same to say that something is anti-tumor, has an anti-tumoral effect, that be curative of cancer. It's not the same. And for physicians, this is clear. So we have to be aware about that. So many professionals are coming to the field, and also patients looking for relief. Very often, patients get medical advice from suppliers and internet blogs. Bertrand nous a parlé de qu'ils se sont, they are feeling in a bad position, doing illegal practice of medicine, and it's true. And you are not safe, and you are feeling anguished for sure. I know we have to help them not to go with this burden, you know. So we conducted a survey at Monitor Cannabis Uruguay. This is at Faculty of Sciences, Social Sciences in Uruguay, to monitorize the law. Because even our law obliged the government to do that. They are not doing it. This is welcome to Latin America. So, yeah. I will tell some anecdotes that will shock you, for sure. Even the left is not safe from these stories, and left bureaucracy is even so dangerous. You cannot imagine how much. So this study conducted, let me show you some data. Mass media was the most prevalent way to access among interviewed patients, 56%. Only 11-12% they say that they got the information from a health professional. Health professional doesn't mean physician. Physicians even less. That was also psychologists, social workers. The less people were physicians. So I'm very impressed here. It's full of physicians. First time in my life working 30 years in that field. And in cannabis legalization and medical cannabis. And I haven't seen so many physicians as here, so you're doing well. And just in case here, psychiatrists are not part of the problem, are also part of the solution, so it's not our case. Psychiatrists in Uruguay have been fighting against legalization, and they have been terrifying populations, saying that all our kids will come schizophrenic. So, thank you so much for this kind of physicians. 57% of the patients haven't consulted a physician after getting the information. They even don't want after. I already know, but I'm looking for mass survey. My physician helping me with the treatment. Not at all. 30% of interviews, more than 30%, reported that were already using cannabis for medical purposes. 45% of them reported self-medication, 28% as medical suggestion. Our law authorizes us to prescribe, but they haven't prescribed. They have suggested, recommended, but I don't know how to do that. So let's go with another physician in the best of the cases. 17% by peer recommendation and 10% by domestic growers and grow shops. Grow shops cannot sell cannabis in my country. 3 ways of access: self-cultivation, cannabis clubs, and buying at the pharmacies is like buying wine at the pharmacies. This is ridiculous what Mujica wanted to do, and he did, because it was a very opportunistic, politically talking. The major owners of the pharmacies are from the party of the opposition, so having them with the law was interesting for the political show. So 58% of them say they were doing the treatment without medical supervision. And it wasn't rare to have side effects that they even didn't know that were side effects. Because it's not true that cannabis is the holy plant, just in case for our culture. Occidental is allopathy, pure allopathy. We are going against the symptoms. We are using dose response style. This is not, we can use cannabis tincture to prepare homeopathy as well, but what we use is allopathy. It's not homeopathy. It's not alternative. It was before the big pharma industry. So they are alternative. We were already here. And they don't know that. They have been told that this is nothing happening with it, and only the wood effects, beneficiary. No, it's not true. And if for the health of the laws, for the health of the plant, and for the health of the people, we have to do things well. Because prohibitionism is there, waiting for our failure. So we have to do things well, taking care of everything, and the plant as well. And they are waiting for us to fail just to go back to for prohibitionism. Thank you. Among the reasons for not consulting a doctor, it was found that patients do not have a doctor trained to follow the treatment. They think that they are not prepared to discuss the subject with the doctors because of lack of arguments, and they think they have to be prepared to discuss with the doctor. But this is what physicians frequently, the message frequently physicians have delivered. That is, we are the owners of their health and disease. It's not true. They are the owners. Don't forget the right to self-determination. So we are simply advisors and companions, not more than that. So they also think that they know their doctors will reject, and they are against the cannabis treatments. Against? Frequently, my colleagues say, "PEYRAUBE, you have to understand." In my country, they say PEYRAUBE, non PEYRAUBE. C'est très joli de l'entendre ici. I say, "You have to understand, we don't believe in this." And I say, "Oh my God, this is not a religion to believe or not. You are lacking study. That's the problem. You have to read the other library. There is another knowledge you have been refusing to access." And the universities and the medicine schools particularly have been part of the problem. We are not teaching at medicine schools even a physiological system. This is the endocannabinoid system that more than 20 years have been described, discovered, and proved. And medicine schools are not talking about that. Yeah, I understand, because if we recognize the existence of endocannabinoid system, we have to recognize that we can treat it modulating it. And one of the modulators are components of the plant, because you have dronabinol. The problem is not the industry, the big pharma industry. The problem is the plant. Why? Because the conventions. And you have to know that human rights conventions are hierarchically superior to drugs conventions. So that's why they haven't punished us. They were saying, we are going to punish Uruguay in the United Nations. Nobody has. Why? Because we have said, listen, if we respect drug conventions and we have ratified the convention, the human rights conventions, we are violating human rights conventions. So we are going to legalize, even for adult use, because the problem is not medical cannabis. I don't know what you're still discussing. It's already authorized internationally to do that. The problem is adult use, and we have. So this is a message. Don't be afraid, and don't let you be controlled by menaces. You know, Hife was twice in Uruguay, and they went back the same as they come. Our sovereignty cannot be, and with the need of our people, cannot be controlled by international organizations. It would be better to start working in death penalty in Asia, because people use drugs. This is a really problem, not legalizing cannabis. So, briefly, 57.7% of the cases of consultations with a medical doctor did not happen due to barriers in the doctor-patient relationship, and of the interviews who did consult their doctors, 42%, almost half of them, reported adverse reactions, disapproval, ignorance, skepticism, or indifference in the best of the cases. On the other hand, interviews with medical doctors, practitioners, and medicine school faculty showed that they feel unprepared for clinical interventions with cannabinoid-based medicines, that they haven't accessed reliable science-based relevant clinical information, because preclinical we have a lot. But the problem is working with people, not with mice, not with murine, not with rats. Do what you want. It doesn't matter. And few amounts of cannabinoids. So the problem is human beings. They are not allowing us to do clinical research. And after that, they are asking us for evidence, clinical evidence. This is perverse, and they know. They know this is perverse. We have legalized, and we still have no single clinical trial authorized by the health ministry in Uruguay. And this is shameful. Still, they are asking for evidence, you can imagine. So they are controlling the scene so that they don't have the... because one of our trials, mine, is to demonstrate that cannabis is not a gateway drug, but an exit drug. For drug abuse fields, you know, there are some compounds such as CBD, but particularly THCV. Magnific treating drug dependency. It not depends on the drug they are using, it's on the mechanism, reducing seeking and withdrawal. And what they are not allowing that, they are saying this is a problem all over the world, and we have the part of the solution, just in case a response. And they are not allowing that. What's going on? So I'm hopeful that Europe will start with clinical trials as soon as possible, please. Because developing countries have no funds. And they don't want to take funds from security and repression to clinical research. That's another problem we have. You see, bureaucracy and politicians are the same everywhere. On the other hand, they say that they haven't access to clinical trial information. We could summarize that because the political, social, cultural, and scientific evolution of the medicinal use of cannabis, there has not been yet a systematically and satisfactory meeting of actors involved in any medical and act treatment, and treatment of a health problem, that is physicians and patients. On one hand, we have the patients trivializing cannabis. No, it's a plant. Yeah, it's a plant. It's true, but cicuta as well, as Socrates. And there are many plants that can be dangerous if you don't know how to control them, including psilocybin. Could be fantastic treatment, and could be, you can have the worst trip you could have in your life. So, yeah. Thank you. I thought you wanted to say something. So, and on the other side, we have the physicians rejecting, talking about this, not going. They say, we don't know, but they are not going. They are not paying for studying. They are not going to the conferences. They are not listening to the lecturers. We invite the dream team. We had a dream team in Uruguay, including some mates of Cristina, that were Manuel Guzman, Mark Ware from Canada, Tamás Viró from Hungary. We have many of the people that have been writing this scientific story. And we were only 100 physicians and 12 and 20 people from other health professions. Only 100, being legal. And was people that, these physicians were people that were already studying, discussing, they were friendly, they have a friendly attitude towards medical cannabis. So it's a problem. And I think that the part of the problem has been the way we have been talking about cannabis. Because generally, the voices of activism are generating rejection among physicians. Because it's not the way they are used to be trained in these issues. We have to start talking seriously from a scientific point of view. Human rights, what have been happening with people that mental health disorders and human rights. Who cares? So human rights, unfortunately, and is surprisingly, is not a problem for physicians. If it's science-based, if I'm going to be claimed or not, if this is approved by the health ministry. That's why we have no physicians fighting. I was excluded in my country, and many of them menaced me frequently to put me in jail because I was sending parents to buy cannabis for their kids so they don't relapse in cocaine. So these were our colleagues. They were doing nothing, mostly directing religious programs in this field. So it's serious, the situation. So let's move forward. So I start trying to collect what were the questions that physicians and patients were doing, and also thinking about what they need to know. Because it's not only what you ask what you know that you need, but you don't ask about things you don't need, you don't know exist. So we have also to promote to create the need of education. And studying the questions, I'm sorry, but I don't see, so I'm myope, you see? So far. Well, but as you can see, many of the questions are similar, almost the same for physicians and patients. They are asking for the benefits. They are asking for compatibility with conventional treatments. Should I? No, you don't have to quit the treatment. We will see what are the drugs we can start. I will try to go on showing some examples. How do we do this? And this is, no, you don't have to. You can have a rebound of your symptoms. So we are going to decrease doses once it's working. And first we have to see if it works. Because it's not true that it works for everyone in all diseases and with every compound. During pregnancy, should I prescribe? This is a serious question and very difficult to answer. If you answer me, my criteria is if I can avoid any substance, I will. During pregnancy, and also breastfeeding. Why? Because we don't know. We know he's not going to be dependent to CBD because CBD is not creating dependency. So it's not the case of heroin during pregnancy or other opiates or benzodiazepines. It's not the case. But we don't know how it's going to be changed the endocannabinoid system of the fetus. We still don't know long-term impacts. So we have to be careful. But if I have to choose, I choose CBD. If there is some symptoms, very serious symptoms, pain, or that is not allowing this mother to move forward peacefully in their pregnancy or helping the baby to grow inside, we have to. Vomiting that is not responding to metoclopramide or that have very serious side effects. So I have no doubt. But we have to think always the benefits-cost relationship. Results. Well, let's go for now. We have very few results in human beings, but we have a lot in rats and mice and monkeys and things like that. So help us, people from the university, from the academy, help us to get the evidence and resources as well. Now your president, your Ministry of Health have talked that you are going to move forward on research. Please tell her, don't do the same that Argentina has made. This is awful law. They haven't legalized cannabis. They have legalized research that was already legalized in 1978. What's that? Legalizing research. You don't need to. You have to legalize access to cannabis. And so let's see. But there are some questions that are different. And now let's try to answer. I will be stoned, ask the patients. Se répéter? Pas du tout. It depends on the cannabis, the cannabinoid used, and the dose. Because we all have THC, patients treated with THC, and they are working, and they are studying, and they are learning, and they are everything, and they have normal lives. It depends the way, the doses you are doing this. Is a life long term? I always answer first, is that worrying you? Which treatment is not for a chronic disease? Why we are asking cannabis differently that for the other medicines? Why we are expecting more for cannabis? Why we are our exigence for cannabis is more than for the other medication? Antihypertensive medication are curing you. This is not necessarily cured. But it's true that some patients can have time without using. And even more, there are some clinicians that wash up procedures once a year. It's not my case. If they have good results and the effects, the benefits are, and the side effects are low or not, I continue. And some patients stop having results. So we wash out and we start again, perhaps with another product, and perhaps with the same product, because you can reset the cannabinoid receptors. Is it possible to interrupt suddenly the treatment? I'm traveling, I run off medicine, no problem. You will have no withdrawals even with THC. Doses are too low, but also because it's lipophilic, and so it will stay in our body for a while. And withdrawal syndrome, with huge amounts, I have never seen that in medical patients. Yes, my background is drug abuse field. In the other, yes, we have, but it starts 3 or 4 days later, they stop using, because it's still in the body. Shall I become a dependent? No. It depends on the product you're using, but even with THC. THC is the psychotropic drug with the lower percentage of creating dependency. It's lower, half of the benzodiazepines. So we are prescribing benzodiazepines that are neurotoxic. We already know that. So why What's the problem with that? And even becoming dependent. What is the problem with becoming dependent? Is not getting the product. If you access to the product, the same as a diabetic can get the insulin, you will have no problem, and you will stay stable. So chemical dependency is nothing to promote, but also it's true that people with stabilized dependencies can have a good quality of life. So what's the problem with that? People under benzodiazepine treatments are actually dependent. Most of them, 32% mostly. So what happens when cannabis-based treatments is interrupted? You will get the symptoms again because you will not be cured, probably. Some patients are lasting in their benefits, but frequently, in my experience, they're coming back to the symptoms. And to quit the treatment should be doses reduced slowly. I have already answered that. And our physicians ask any specific information, clinical aspect to request. I will show you how I recommend to conduct a clinical interview. But conducting a cannabinoid-based treatment is the same as any other treatment. There are some colleagues that are prescribing, they are not having an anamnesis, a clinical record. They are not having anything. It's a romantic version, a sort of shamanism. I'm a physician, an Occidental physician, and I'm proud of that. And I have defended human rights of shamans from the forest in Amazon and everywhere. They are shamans, and they know how to do that. But we are not. Perhaps they are somebody, but majority of us, we are not. Routes of administration. If I can choose all of them. We have already products for all the routes of administration, except injection, but they will come. Actually, nanocomponents, nanomolecules are being prepared to treat targeting tumors and other diseases. So even injection. Nowadays, we have only oils, patches, creams, suppository, ovules, for endometriosis. We have capsules, pills. Everything can be done. And even more, if we know how to process that, to have a dose standardized, and even you can have the natural components, the extractions, but these extractions have to be safe, without residues, remaining molecules from solvents and things like that. So be careful with the domestic procedures. Doses. In cannabis, we don't work with one dose. The lab comes and says, this is 5 milligrams per day, twice in those doses. This is not our case. Our slogan is, like in medicine actually, is low, start low and go slow. Because you will be surprised that there are patients that are responding to 2.5, 3, 5 milligrams to THC for treatment of pain. And there are others like around 20 and 30. And there are patients with very low doses of anti-inflammatory effects of CBD, starting with 550 milligrams per day. And there are others, for autoimmune diseases, you will need 200, 300, not for treating pain, it's to modulate the immune system, because modulating doses are higher than anti-inflammatory doses. But there are ranges of doses, and you have to find the singular dose for your patient, and you will be surprised. For example, for epilepsy, there are patients that are answering to 2 milligrams per kilo per day. But the majority are around 4 to 6. And there are some of them that need 16. This very expensive treatment. And this is the problem of the costs. Even a government that was, as from the left, social justice has not been considered in our law. So a difference from Germany, they have not included the mandate to include it in the assurance maladie, health insurance. So, you know, it's not true that old while glitters is gold. Products and formulations, I have already said something about that. Treatment monitoring, of course. Of course. Which treatment you do without monitoring? And learning, because we still have no indicators which is the patient that will respond to a Parkinson's disease. We don't have the idea. We have to say, but we have to learn, but also, and first of all, we have to detect side effects very early, because are reversible. So we can reduce the doses and start reducing the symptoms of the side effects. Access to safe products, there's a problem. The safe access is sending the patient with a prescription to the pharmacy. Or people that want to help self-cultivation, this is not my style. I defend with my life the right to self-cultivate. No more one single people in jail for cultivating. Even for adult use, it doesn't matter. This is crazy, crazy. The social, personal, moral side effects of this behavior, political behavior, are very awful, devastating. So stop with that. But this is not a medicine. Do you have a weeping willow at home to take aspirin? Is it standardized? I want for my kids the same as for the others. And say, that's it, I want standardized products where the batches are the same components. This is what we need to prescribe. The patient, because they have the right to self-determination, can do what they want at home. But they have to be aware that not always treating a symptom is treating a disease. And we know that. It's not true. We can cancel pain, and the cancer can go on growing. So, be careful. And finally, bibliography. There's a lot. Today we have been taught about many books, and I will suggest two others. One, you can take it for free from internet. It was already released to be downloaded for free. That is the Roger Pertwee edited book, Handbook of Cannabis, of the Oxford University Press. And the other is a Handbook of Cannabis and Related Pathologies. The Victor Preedy is the editor. Really, really good. You will see physicians will feel in Nelson, Goodman, Gilman, and all the handbooks we have been studying medicine as well. So, what is the answer? The answer is education, general public education and medical education. Regarding the research, for general public education, we need systematized and specialized education with platforms. Why? But they are going there to get the information. They are using it, so we have to supply internet with soundness, with serious information, educational campaigns, and medical doctors' consultation that will be late because they already know more than many physicians. The contents, I suggest to be endorsed by scientific societies because many of the information are supplied, but seed banks, I have no problem, but they are seed banks. Health is not their business. Their business is seeds. The business of educating in health should be scientifically based. And even not scientific, we can learn from our clinical experience how to work physiopathologically with this. We can learn from that. But we have to start being near the patients and learning from them what are their reliefs. That's the way I started with cannabis. My patients using cocaine and pasta base, it's like free base, they didn't want to be medicated with neuroleptics, antidepressants, because this had been part of I always forget the jacket. How is that? The straitjacket. Yeah, and it's true. And drug abuse people are particularly abused in this field. So they didn't want to, and I negotiate with them. And they say, I have no suffering. I'm not suffering if I have some puffs of cannabis. When I'm not using cocaine. Let's negotiate. How many puffs? Let's see how much. Let's try. And I start sending the parents to buy cannabis. They didn't relapse. So I learned from them, and I'm very grateful. They allowed me to learn from them this experience they have to the field. But this doesn't mean that I have no responsibility in the follow-up. You understand that we have to find the middle zone to work together. For medical education, inclusion of the endocannabinoid system and this modulation in the official programs of the medicine schools, physiology, pharmacology, neurology, dermatology, oncology, gastroenterology, immunology, anesthesiology, everything. Education programs of the scientific societies. If we don't have this at the university, at the medicine school, we have scientific associations that we are doing. We created the Uruguayan Society of Endocannabinologie, and we are teaching other physicians and ourselves to move forward in the knowledge of this. And finally, including this in the continuing medical education programs. The goals, of course, is training physicians, but also repairing the gap, the wounds among patients and physicians in this field. And obviously, recruiting physicians. We are losing a magnific tool to improve people's life. It's true we are not healing everyone, but it's pretty much that we can expect. And they are so, they are so grateful because they have been suffering for so long. Then this is also a compensation, a moral, spiritual, and vocational compensation we have. So don't waste your time. And the modules include everything. I will leave this. I don't want to talk about the course, but we run the pilot because of many agencies and official and private companies that help us to have the pilot. Now it will be run in South Africa in an evaluated version, of course, at the University of what was run. And how to conduct the clinical interview, don't forgetting anything we ask in the clinical interviewing. But adding prejudices, because the effect will not, and fearing is not the same. And you have to detect and work with the patient, educate the patient. If you are not fearing, you can educate the patient to feel free of prejudices. Legality is not legitimacy. They are not synonymous. And they have the legitimate right to get relief, so we can change their perception if we have changed our perception. And also previous experience with cannabis, because that will teach you how it works with them. Finally, one of the results of this, creating la Société Uruguayenne d'Endocannabinologie, and I want to invite you to stop talking about cannabis medicine. Cannabis medicine is the product. We are modulating the endocannabinoid system. Cannabis medicine should be the first discipline that would be named by the product we use to treat it. What's that? I invite you, as a physician, we physicians can't build a new discipline. I'm not a neurologist, but I can work with them. I'm not an anesthesiologist, but I work with them because I were modulating the endocannabinoid system. And so it is another specialty among the others. And we can work with almost everything. Why? Because the endocannabinoid system and cannabinoids receptors are everywhere. So all the systems and organs doesn't mean all the diseases, all the symptoms. Finally, I would like to, this is my end, I would like to finish my lecture with some words in French. And it's, listen, I hope I have an idea. It's here. Here and here. No. Sorry? My children, they are not listening. What's happened? Because as I don't want to bless your language, I have prepared some points. I would like that all your regulators and all people involved, but mainly your regulators, listen to these words. À partir de mon expérience à la régulation du cannabis, je travaille encore à la régulation de la Colombie, de l'Argentine. J'étais aussi à Maroc, qu'ils sont en train de commencer à penser, à des différents pays. Mais je travaillais beaucoup et maintenant, je suis en train d'évaluer la politique en Uruguay. Je pense que j'ai une petite expérience à parler. À partir de ça, une chose que j'ai déjà dit aujourd'hui matin, c'est le temps des politiciens n'est pas toujours le temps des peuples, le temps des gens. Et des juges non plus. Prendre trop de temps peut être dangereux, voire plus dangereux que les effets négatifs du cannabis. Sans doute. Donc, ne perdez pas le temps du peuple et du pays, parce que c'est aussi une opportunité économique pour le développement du pays, de tous les pays. Troisièmement, si vous êtes inquiet au sujet des marchés illégaux de drogue, un bon accès légal aux produits, soit médical ou pas, est le meilleur moyen de combattre les marchés illégaux. La légalité, c'est le mieux combat. L'autre a déjà failli scandaleusement. C'est affreuse. Les dommages en Amérique latine, vous ne pouvez pas croire. Seulement Mexico a plus de 100 000 morts et plus de 30 000 disparus. C'est-à-dire, il n'y a de choses plus graves que ça. Et finalement, soyez compatissants et ne créez pas des obstacles inutiles à l'accès au cannabis médical et aux soins dont les personnes ont besoin. Nous avons légalisé et nous avons le décret pour la mise en œuvre du cannabis médical en février 2015. Et on a seulement un seul produit, 2% de CBD, en 10 millilitres de cannabis. Ça ne marche pas. Si vous légalisez et la bureaucratie va mettre des obstacles, vous allez croire comme en Uruguay un marché clandestin que nous n'avons pas dans le passé, le cannabis médical. Même qu'on a le loi, on a un marché très florissant. Parce qu'on n'a pas de produits et c'est trop difficile d'accéder parce qu'on n'a pas de produits. On a le même système qu'ici, mais c'est plus facile d'accéder à l'autorisation du ministère. S'il y a un médecin, c'est l'usage compassionnel. On ne parle plus à cannabis de usage compassionnel, ça c'est en avance. On parle de importation sans taux des produits pas registrés dans le pays. C'est pas non plus, parce que c'est pas ça que doit être seulement compassionnel. Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Pourquoi seulement compassionnel? Compassionnel à l'épilepsie, quand vous n'avez pas les effets adverses que vous avez avec tous les autres, même le phénobarbital, avec des petits-enfants. Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Toujours le même critère. Le médecin, toujours, commence par le traitement le moins agressif. Ça, c'est le CBD pour l'épilepsie et pour la douleur aussi. Alors, finalement, si vous le souhaitez, nous pouvons tous commencer à penser ensemble le modèle pour la France. Parce qu'il n'y a pas de modèles idéaux, il y a des modèles possibles. Et une partie des possibilités, ce sont les aspects culturels et le jeu politique. Mais on peut l'améliorer dans le futur, sans doute. Il faut continuer à travailler. Et voyez, après 30 ans de travail, je ne suis pas fatiguée. Je suis toujours émue. Alors, bon courage pour la France. Et bon travail, mais il ne faut pas oublier les autorités et les régulateurs, le modèle que ce soit, 3 piliers de l'éthique de la santé publique. D'abord, ne pas nuire, suivi de faire le bien. Et non, on est en train de nuire. Alors, arrêtez. Deuxièmement, justice sociale. L'accès au cannabis ne peut pas dépendre de vos incomes, de l'argent que vous touchez, hein, de vos revenus. Merci. Et finalement, respectez profondément, pas dans les mots, mais dans les faits, et la France est symbolique à ça, hein, le droit à l'autodétermination. Alors, bon courage, bonne chance, et nous sommes là pour vous aider.